Larry, tell me, how did your relation to Keith Haring begin?
My relationship with Keith Haring and Jean-Michel at the time was a relationship with the time I was living in New York. It was a relationship with my time living downtown and really seeing the energy, what was going on with the galleries and with the artists. It was
Why do you speak about the two artists together?
because I started with both artists.
They were friends.
They were friends, they're acquaintances, certainly worked differently, certainly different types of people, but they were all part of the time. René Ricard was one of those individuals who explained those artists to me and brought me works at the same
René
time.
Ricard was a friend of Warhol too, right?
Correct.
And so, how was the ambience in this time?
It was very free, easy,
And secure, no?
and secure.
In New York.
Yes. Dirty, okay, not a problem. Downtown was not what it is today, but basically it was really authentic, which I don't find New York to be as authentic as that time
Okay.
in those years.
And so, how did you meet Keith?
Well, Keith was about town. Keith was at openings. Keith was very public and very personable, very approachable. He was there.
And one day you decided to collect, or how was it? You
Yeah.
are an You say you are an accumulator.
Yes, it occurred to me that these artists would be important in the future. It occurred to me that at that time was a little special. I felt it from an intuition point of view. And I was actually pretty compulsive about those artists accumulating works and some others. Kenny Scharf was another artist who I love and respect.
Who's still alive.
Right, exactly, a wonderful man. But it was that compulsion and the drive to try to create and keep a body of work. And in this creation of a body of work came the subway drawings, because I was buying cars and objects and vases. Keith Haring started painting what was around him, very Duchamp, art of the ready-made. Keith Haring only came to canvases later. Keith Haring first painted vases and shelves and all kinds of things that was in his immediate surroundings.
Yeah.
Subway drawings is an extension of that. So it was quite logical for me to assess and see these objects which came from the subway as important, what I think would be relics of that moment.
But how did it work? You were doing that in the subway, and someone was going after he has drawn and takes them out.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. It was that he did them very quickly, in maybe 30 seconds, a minute. He went on, and the amazing photographer Quang Chi, who also succumbed to complications from AIDS, documented so much of that.
Yeah.
But that documentation exists, but the works really don't exist. And there comes a time when I don't particularly have to hold on to everything, in terms of for the next 40 years.
But how did you have, because your collection is made of 31 drawings, right?
That grouping is 31 drawings that we exhibited with the Brooklyn Museum. We created the book, and those drawings were lent to many museums over the time, from MoMA to the Barnes Foundation to many global museums in terms of its
But how could
documentation.
you assemble such a large group of drawings?
Well, it was over. I was very passionate, and people came and saw me, and I was very fortunate to be downtown, and they were there, but they were not respected in the same way that they are respected now.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
You see.
So all these 31 drawings, you bought them in the 80s?
Yes. I think I might have bought one in the 90s, but basically, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
because they were
what-
harder. They were harder and harder to find as time went on.
And why do you think that Keith Haring is important?
I think I would say he's an artist of a decade. He made monumental change. He brought art to so many people. He bridges the gap between high and low art. He created a vocabulary, a sense of style, a sense of communication. I think he was a special artist, and his works are recognizable all over the world today, and harder and harder to find.
Merci. Larry, you wanted to add something?
I'd like to add something about pricing and Basquiat and Keith Haring.
Because you happen to know the two in parallel.
Yes.
And you know very well the two works, right?
Yes. So I'd like to compare important drawings of Basquiat from 1981 and 82. I think Christie's has one coming up. A nice drawing. And I'd like to compare that to the quality of the Keith Haring subway drawings from those same years. And the price discrepancy is vast. So it's a little illogical, because top work by artists on paper these two artists should not be so wide apart. Those prices should not be so different. They should be a little different perhaps, but not
As
20
much.
million to much, much less. So for me, the opportunity, understanding what the Keith Haring subway drawings are in terms of their imagery, in terms of the timing, and the energy that when they were created is very, very similar to when Basquiat created his important drawings of 1981 and 1982. If I was buying art again, I would just buy the same thing again. I have very much confidence in this type of work and when they were created and what they meant to the world, and what hopefully museums and other collectors would find in acquiring them for their collections to represent Keith Haring in the most meaningful way. A side note is that Keith Haring's works with these images are very rare. He did a very limited amount of paintings, he did tarps, and a nice amount of drawings and many amazing works. But the images and the images of the drawings are very special, and it's his alphabet, and that's
Yeah.
what I have to say about this right now.
Very interesting. Merci.